everybody, and welcome to TFM&A 2015. I'm Lara Doyle, and on behalf of the organisers, I'd like to wish you a wonderful couple of days. Over the last year, TFM&A have conducted a lot of customer insights, and the number one brand you told us that you wanted to see was Hubspot. So I'm delighted to welcome Kieran Flanagan from Hubspot to the TFM&A stage. Before we begin, please can I see a show of hands? How many people in the room consume and read Hubspot content? Great. And how many people use Hubspot software? Very interesting. Please can I have a round of applause for Kieran?
Thanks, guys.
Welcome, Kieran. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be here.
Kieran, I read somewhere that Doug Kessler has described you as a marketing geek high on data crack. Would you say that's a fair description?
Yeah, so I think that's probably, Doug's probably the best person to describe me through content. I can't describe things as well as Doug can through content, so I thought that was a pretty good description. I'm quite hyperactive. I've learned to not talk so fast. I'm from, I don't know if any of you guys know Northern Ireland, but we talk incredibly fast until I started working for a boxing company who have people who talk a lot faster than me. So, and I like data. I could sit in a room for hours on end just doing some data analysis, so it's a pretty good description.
And how did you get into inbound marketing, and what led you to HubSpot?
Yeah, so my career path is probably not a good example of someone who took a great career path into marketing. My background is computer science, so I had a degree in computer science. I went into multiple jobs where I was a software engineer. I kind of wanted to stay in development because I was at that time aware of how much money those guys were earning. They're kind of earning that again. I was never really that good at developing. I like the idea of being able to take an idea and build it into something online, but I wasn't very good at actually being the person to do that. So I went to Australia, Sydney. I worked there for a year. I got into my first real IT job where we were creating an e-commerce store, and kind of figured out that I liked the marketing side of things versus the actual development side of things. So I came back to Ireland. I was really motivated to get a role in marketing. I decided I wanted a graduate role because I wanted to start from the bottom. I went to all of these recruitment agencies, give them my CV, and they told me there's just no one that's going to hire you with no marketing background. They want marketing MBA. So I got an interview with the agency I ended up working to under the kind of guise that I was going to talk to them about a course I wanted to take, but really I was trying to angle a way into the door. And the next day they asked me for an interview, then I got a job, and that was about 5 years ago. And I've really kind of transitioned from someone who does search back then, really SEO and PPC. I kind of just evolved into marketing and inbound marketing.
And well, that leads me perfectly on to the next question. How did you get into inbound marketing? And the inbound marketing thing is interesting. So back in 2010, probably I was working for Salesforce, and I was doing a bunch of search and SEO and PPC stuff, and we had some end of year targets. We were trying to figure out how we would get from here to here through SEO and organic traffic and all those kind of things. And I realized that we weren't going to do it with the typical playbook that SEO people run. We were going to have some content, try to get some links, do those type of things. Brian and Dharmesh, who co-founded HubSpot, they wrote their first edition of inbound marketing back in 2010. I kind of read that, and it opened up my eyes to not a different type of marketing, but just reframed the way I thought about marketing. So I kind of adopted those principles and launched these social success sites for HubSpot, which were content hubs, with actually the help of Doug Kessler. That was how I met Doug. And they were really successful. We reached our end of year target, our organic traffic target. We reached the end of year target in 6 weeks of actually running these kind of inbound marketing playbooks. And that's when I kind of got obsessed with the whole inbound thing. Our marketing manager says that every marketer has a secret crush on HubSpot. Why and what is HubSpot?
Yeah, so That's a really great line. So your marketing manager is awesome for saying that. I think that I was one of those marketers, right? So I was, when I first read that book, I fell in love with inbound marketing, and part of that I think is because what inbound marketing is about in my mind is this concept of like moving the free line. So typically as a marketer, you've always acknowledged like the amount of, you give away a certain amount of value, and then there's a certain amount of things you actually have to maybe pay some money for. I think the thing that Hubspot did back in 2006, and lots of other brands are doing, I don't want to make this just about Hubspot, but the thing that Hubspot did really well back in 2006, 2007 is they reframed the concept of moving the free line, so they give away more value than you would ever expect it to get. So if you're actually downloading an ebook, back then there wasn't millions of ebooks, so it was quite new to give these in-depth ebooks and topics, and all you needed to do was actually give us some of your information. You didn't actually have to pay for that. So I think that's, for me, why a lot of marketers like the way HubSpot did marketing, because instead of hitting you over the head with all of these interruptive marketing messages, we were actually trying to deliver some real value for you. So you chose to actually come visit our site, visit our brand. And I think that's the reason we have a software company. At the end of the day, we're a B2B company who sells software, but last year our blogs got 19.5 million visits because we keep trying to figure out how we can deliver value for people.
So then, is it a publisher or a vendor, and is there a difference?
So, I'll cycle back, because I haven't probably described what HubSpot does. I'll give you like the 2-minute summary of what HubSpot does. So, HubSpot is people will call us an inbound marketing platform. We also get categorized in the category of marketing automation because we have those tools. The kind of way I like to think about HubSpot is we help businesses of all sizes kind of grow. I think that's the easiest way to think about it, and whether that's grow visits, leads, customers, we have the tools to help you do that. Like in terms of us being a vendor or publisher, I think we're both, and I think a lot of brands are that today. So we act like a publisher in terms of the people we hire are actually people you would expect to be hired by publishing companies. We look for people who are extremely passionate about content, maybe from a comms background, maybe from a PR background. Like they have some sort of real passion for content. The type of teams we have internally in marketing are teams you would expect to see in a publisher. So we have teams that are editorial teams to make sure our content quality stay high. We're a big marketing team now. You don't need an editorial team to actually be successful with this. And we constantly obsess over how can we create these assets, these content assets, to make our company more valuable, because they generate repeat traffic, sales, they generate repeat leads. So, but we get measured like a vendor, so we're measured on business metrics. In HubSpot, I get measured by the same sort of metrics that a sales manager or a sales director gets measured by. I have an agreement that I deliver a certain amount of leads to my sales team each and every month, and those leads are worth a certain amount of value. So over the course of a month, I have to generate enough revenue for my leads so the sales team can actually hit their quota. So I think we think like a publisher, but we get measured, and our performance is based upon what you would expect a marketer and a vendor to be measured by.
How is the HubSpot marketing team structured?
Yeah, so I can give you as much as I know, because the marketing team, we've reached a scale now where we grow quite fast. Even in Europe, we've gone from 12 to well over 100. In Cambridge, it's even crazier than that. We had 40 people starting our new hires class just last month. So the marketing team is about 70 or 80 people now. To put that into some context, of our sales, I'm waffling a lot. So in our sales figures, so how much sales we generate each and every month, over 80% of those come from leads the marketing team create. So there's a huge amount of pressure in the marketing team to actually deliver, so that's why it's so big. We're kind of split into brand and buzz team, a content team, which I think most of the questions will be about, product marketing, funnel teams. The funnel teams are responsible for generating enough leads for all the different sales teams to be successful. And I've probably missed out a team, but they are the kind of predominant teams there are in HubSpot.
You publish a lot of content. How do you ensure quality, and what is the purpose of the content?
Yeah, I think, so this is a really great question to ask Doug as well. So my summary of content is the purpose of content is to solve the problems that your product and services solve, but you're solving them through the content
that you publish and promote. So you're basically solving those problems before they're ever aware of your product. So you think about it like for a Hubspot person, they're out there trying to figure out how they generate more leads. They don't know we can solve that problem, but they know they have a problem, and we initially solve that through content. How we look at quality, so we've reached the stage now in marketing, the competition is just extremely fierce. Like people are paying a lot of money just for content you can freely assume, so your barriers of entry is getting harder and harder if you're actually a marketing company in that space. So we have an editorial team to make sure that the quality of the content for us adheres to a certain standard. But the quality thing is a total kind of bullshit argument. Like, what's a good piece of content is very much dependent upon what your competitor's doing in the market space you're in.
Interesting. What is content distribution? Why should we be doing it, and what is the ideal approach?
So content distribution is probably my favorite topic at the moment. So I did a presentation at the States last, August, which has more in-depth stuff, which is called the art and science of content promotion. But the reason I did that is because, like, we all know content marketing is the thing. Everyone goes around, let's produce content. But the core thing is how do you distribute that? How do you get people to actually see that? So content distribution is extremely important, but again, how important is dependent upon the industry you're in. So if I'm a marketing company today and I'm starting a startup, what I would probably do is spend 50% of my time publishing content, 50% of my time promoting that content. And a good example of how we think about that is, like, you guys are in an event. If any of you have ever run events before, there's like a really comprehensive plan of how you're going to sell tickets across a certain amount of time. We use the same template, so my team does events, but we also do content. So we use the same template we run for events, for promotion. So we have a weekly promotion schedule for a piece of content that we create, and we know how many visits and leads we want to generate each and every week. So distribution is basically, if I'm creating a tool, if I'm creating a blog post, how am I going to make this successful? The other thing people fail to do is they don't think about distribution before they start publishing the content. So if I'm going to create some content, I'm going to think about who is this for? Like, who's my audience for this? Who do I want to consume it? Do I have access to them now? Like, do I have actual people? Can I actually reach the people who are actually going to be interested in the things I'm producing? If I don't have access to them, how do I get access to them? Like, how am I actually going to get this content in front of them? Is that going to cost me money? If that costs me money, do I actually have the budget to do that? If I don't have all those things, there's probably no point doing it, because, again, unless you're in a market where your barrier to entry is quite low and the standard content is quite poor and the amount of people doing content is quite low. If you're in a competitive market, you need to think that much about distribution.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing automation. Would you agree with the following statement? Marketing automation is more than just marketing, it is business transformation.
So I think that statement sounds like it was written by a marketing automation company. So I don't know if I agree with it. I think marketing automation has helped us get, like, extremely smart with how we extract more value from the database we have. The thing I would say about marketing automation, it's not this magic thing where you buy it, you switch it on, and then it solves all of your marketing problems. The thing I see a lot of businesses do, because we talk to a lot of B2B companies about their marketing, because they tend to, want us to speak to them. They jump into marketing automation way too soon. So marketing automation, they set up all these complex workflows. They're doing all this crazy scientific stuff to get more things out of their database. And the average company, we did a survey recently for the US and the UK, and the average company is generating less than 500 leads. The amount of value you can get from doing all this complex stuff and 500 leads per month isn't that great, especially if you have a database which on average decays at about 30 to 40%. I would focus on audience acquisition at that point, because audience acquisition is one of the harder things to do, but the amount of value I get by doubling the amount of leads is way higher than I get from improving my conversion rate. So the long-winded answer is marketing automation gets more and more powerful with the bigger funnel that you have. The more you have coming in, the more powerful your marketing automation is.
I'm afraid that it looks like we're running short on time. Before we completely wrap up, we're opening it up to the audience for some quick Q&A. So can I see a show of hands for questions? Anyone got any burning questions for Kieran? I think one that I would like to start with would be the ROI. And how do we prove the ROI of content?
So that's ROI of content is a really interesting subject. So there's a lot of value you get from just doing content that's, and I will mispronounce this word, serendipitous. So you don't know, you can't really measure all the good things that it's doing, but you kind of know that it's doing some good things for your brand. You can get tools like Hubspot and other tools, I'm not just making this about Hubspot, will allow you to see the visits, the leads, and the customers that your content is generating, so you can see the full funnel. But the people who get obsessed about this one metric where I can go, this is the ROI I'm getting from content, will probably never do content and never be successful, where their competitors are just blowing them out of the water because they're not obsessing about all of the metrics that they can't measure, but they're actually just going and actually getting it done.
Any questions? Can I see some hands?
Hi, how do you decide on the subjects for your content?
That's a great question. I think I'll answer from us and I'll answer from what I would do. So we're at a size now where in 1 week we published 49 blog posts. So there's a variety of reasons that we'll produce blog posts, but they're across like different spectrums of audiences. So we're trying to target sales now because we have a free CRM product. So we're targeting agencies because we have a partner network, and then we're targeting marketers. How we come up with topics is like interesting. So if you're a brand starting out, the best thing to do is actually build a keyword map and then figure out like variations of that. And also there's tools like, there's a tool called Social Crawlytics, and I always mention that tool. It's a great tool. You can pull in all of the information that your customers have published or your competitors have published, and it will show you how many times each blog post has been shared across different social networks. So you can start to like figure out what are some topics that are their competitors' audience are finding engaging. So I think it's a variety of things. It's also, success of content is totally on iteration. Like this, I would approach content like a PR person. Like you're thinking about strike rates, and the purpose, a good content marketer is trying to improve their strike rate. So they're trying to make more of the stuff they do successful and less of the stuff tank. But some of it's always going to tank. I produced a video course last year that I was really excited about. I was like, this is going to get like at least 100,000 downloads. I got under 1,000 downloads. I still couldn't figure out why, and that's just part of the life of a content marketer. It's like this, but the opposite are really good.
Any other questions? Here's one here in the front.
Hi, do you have any tips for content promotion? I mean, should we be looking at the sort of amplification services like Taboola and Outbrain and those kind of things, or are there other things we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think how I approach distribution is like before and after the piece. So before the piece, I would really ask those questions. Like I would say when I'm talking about promotion, I would split off a blog, because a blog you're producing a lot more content and it's hard to distribute your time that evenly when you're just doing a blog post. A good way to think about it, if it's a new blog, what I would do is actually have a couple of pieces across the month that are your standout pieces, which means that you're doing a number of posts each week, but there's a couple across the month that you're going to put a lot of promotion behind because they're your killer pieces for that month. And then in terms of other content, I would approach it that I would think about beforehand, who's it for, do I have access to them? I would pay for distribution. If I'm an early stage brand, I would check out Twitter, Facebook, I would check, LinkedIn is good for lead generation, it's tough for content promotion. Some of those services are good to figure out if they're good services for your brand. I think paid social distribution is where AdWords was like some way back, and over time it's going to get more and more expensive. So if it works for your brand and you're a growing brand, I would do it now before it gets too expensive. I would try to figure out what's not enough companies do, is like, who are companies like you that you don't compete with but have the same audience, and they have an email list, you have an email list, they have Twitter followers, you have Twitter followers, like co-produce something and co-promote it and share the leads. Like I don't know if you're a B2B company, but the same thing with experts. Like they have an audience that you want to reach, how can you get them to actually promote it to their audience? You need to think about that beforehand, and then afterwards it's just like, where can you promote that? Through social, paid, through other people's sites, through your site, through your blog, through your email list. I had a framework in that deck I mentioned. I'm not like trying to self-promote, but in the deck I had on like slideshare.K Flanagan, the Art and Science of Content Promotion, I had a framework of how you should approach content promotion that I think will be useful.
Is there a difference in marketing to B2B or B2C?
So I've done both. So I worked for 3 years for large, massive B2C companies with millions and millions of web pages on their websites, and then I worked for B2B companies. I think predominantly at the audience acquisition stage, the mindset's the same. So you're still trying to acquire an audience, you're trying to get them to your website, you're trying to get them to take an action. I honestly think that, and I'm not making, this is a sweeping generalization, absolutely, but I think predominantly B2C marketers are better at audience acquisition than B2B marketers, because B2B marketers fundamentally run a playbook where you pay for some leads, you get it in, and then you come up with all these complex workflows to try and get them to convert into a customer. Whereas a B2C marketer, when I was in B2C, like everything, my career depended upon me getting more people to that website, getting more people onto an email list. I think B2B marketers are actually better at content than B2C marketers. If I was a B2C marketer, I'd be pinching ideas from B2B marketers. And I think obviously when the way they think about conversion is very different, because I think about B2C, the sale happens on the website. B2B, you're trying to actually set a sales team up for success.
What do you personally find to be your biggest challenges in marketing?
I think my personal challenges are kind of intertwined with HubSpot, so I'll go to them really quickly because they're probably not that interesting to a lot of people. But growth, I think about growth. That's all I think about is how do I grow the company? How do I grow the company? How do I grow the company? The biggest thing I've learned from growing a team, I have 8 people reporting to me now over the last 18 months. I've grew that team from zero. Is hiring is the most important thing to get right when you're actually growing a company. If you don't hire the right people, you're screwed. And hiring is actually not enough. People, including me, previous to this job, put enough focus on hiring. So hiring good people is a core challenge of mine, and then coaching a marketing team to actually do good stuff, set them up for success.
So where do you find the right talent then?
Our average time to hire is 8 months, so it's hard. One of the girls who works for me flew back from Canada. One's from Germany. We go all over the place to find them. Like it's tough.
Is that because of the disruption with the new technology?
Yeah, it's because a lot of B2B marketers I speak with never have had to think about audience acquisition. They come in with lots of mid-funnel skills. They think about typical demand generation things, but they don't think about how do I actually grow an audience. So the one question I ask someone who comes in is, I'm going to take all of your budget off you. You have no budget. What's your 90-day plan look like for growing my brand? And most of them freak out, and that's why it's hard to hire.
Okay. And how is that disrupting the relationship your marketing teams will have with sales teams?
So, yeah, I think marketing's, for me, why I love being in B2B is because it's a really exciting time to be B2B. I'll throw out this quote that everyone will throw out in all their speeches, and you guys all probably know, because if you're B2B marketers, is that like 60% of the sale is now complete before a person ever picks up the phone and talks to your salesperson, which means that marketing are in charge of way more of the funnel than they used to be, which I find exciting because I get to spend my time in meetings with like the VP of sales, and I get to spend my time in meetings talking about real business growth and get measured by real business metrics. So the great thing about marketing and sales today for me in B2B is that you can sit in a room and have a conversation with a salesperson and actually speak the same language, same metrics, and they're not looking at you going, oh, brand awareness, that's total bullshit. They're actually looking at you going, you're actually generating real things for me to be successful, and that's why I love the job I do.
Any final questions for Kieran from the audience? There's one at the back over there.
We're about to launch some free trials of our software, and I was just wondering if, in terms of promoting it, whether you've got any sort of tips on, once someone's signed up, keeping them sort of almost hooked and then converting that into a purchase.
So it's basically tips on making sure the free trial is the best free trial experience possible. Yeah, I think that we have, so what we have is when someone signs up for a free trial, you'll actually get a takeaway, so you'll get a PDF which brings you through the top things you want to do in the free trial based upon the fact that we know these are the things that most people struggle with, because if you leave them to just do the free trial themselves, they'll get lost and get bored. We also have like a whole nurture track just for the free trial, that kind of prompts them and nudges them to do stuff. The other thing I like, that I would like to do for a free trial, and we have kind of done this, not so much, is that to get them coming back, because your problem with a free trial is like they just won't come back, is like run, and not enough people think about retargeting this way, run retargeting for people who are in your free trial and remind them that, you know, hey, have you done this, have you done that, like very specific retargeting for people in that list. And in general, like that's a really great use of retargeting. People try to think about retargeting as, how do I get someone in my funnel? I would think about retargeting as, how do I improve my funnel velocity? How do I get more people from a lead to customer?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the audience, and thank you very much to Kieran. It was very, very interesting.
Thanks, everyone.
Should we give him a round of applause?